Hi, everyone. I'm James Protin. I'd like to give a special thank you to our sponsors for the podcast. Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. Today's a very special day for a lot of reasons. First and foremost, my dear friend Connie Capiotis is here, and I am so happy to have her here, and soon you'll find out why. The second reason is this is our 40th show, Nick. You believe that, man? I mean, it's just like, and I still don't know what I'm doing, and you're right, but 40 shows in. So we weren't sure we would wind up doing 4, and we've done 40. So
that's incredible.
Listen, welcome, my friend. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. And I'm so honored that it's the 40th episode. We get to celebrate together.
And you know, we were just together this past Saturday, and I think I have to give a shout out to you and everybody. I mean, the second annual Day of Empowerment, Denise Scaloni, a good friend of ours, and she had me speak, and she had Connie on a panel. The panel was amazing.
Aww.
It was amazing, and it was such an engaged and enthusiastic group of people. I mean, it wasn't a big group. It was an intimate group, 25 or so, which was really cool, which I like better a lot of times because you can really connect with the audience.
Absolutely.
You know, but you guys were really good, and you in particular, you said a lot of things that really resonated with not just with me, but with everybody.
Aw,
you know, your why, your purpose, and all those things, and how you found that. So what I want to do is I know Connie in this space. I'd like to get to know a little bit more about Connie from the other side and how you actually, you know, a little bit more about your journey to here, to who you are and what you're doing, because we'll get into that, but you're doing some really cool stuff, young lady.
I appreciate that. And again, thank you so much for having me. I'm Connie Capiotis. I'm the founder and executive director of Digital Bridges Pittsburgh, and I'm also the CEO of Full Flavor Leadership. So basically, I help people. My background is business development and marketing, and I decided in 2017 that I needed a bigger mission, really. I wanted to help people on a more granular level. I wanted to help individuals. All of my experience showed me that businesses grow the best when you work on the people first. And
there you go.
I
love it.
That concept, and I took the concept that with a computer connected to the internet, there's nothing that you can't learn, do, be, or accomplish. And I ran with that. And that over the last 5 years has evolved into now 2 organizations. I've got the coaching and consulting side, and then I've got the education and nonprofit side. I've got a whole catalog of programs ranging from everybody's favorite is So You Want to Be a YouTube Star.
And we'll get into that because I have one of those. Yes. My, again, granddaughter, Livy, the animal lover, is also
my girl.
a budding
spirit.
YouTuber. Yeah. So
yeah, it started for middle schoolers, and I got such great response that now I teach it to middle school, high school, and I teach it to adults.
Really?
It's so much fun.
Tell me a little bit about the program. How does one become a YouTube star?
It's entrepreneurship. It's digital entrepreneurship.
Okay.
So what I do is, especially with the young ones, I take this concept that they're already really into. Everybody's on social media.
Sure.
Kids are obviously obsessed with it. Everybody else in the world is telling them, no, get off the social media. You're not going to be a social media star. Get off of TikTok. You're not going to be a TikTok star. And then in I walk. And I am an entrepreneur, and I do have a business background, and no worries.
All right, Nick, you got to cut that out. That was Marvin.
And then the first words out of my mouth are, yes, you can.
Right.
And I use that as a chance to teach them entrepreneurship and critical thinking and just a whole set of skills that will stick with them.
But it's empowering. It's building confidence as well, because you're telling them something that they've been told probably for a long time that they can't be. And I'm not one to tell kids you can't be that. I would rather tell them you can be anything you want. Have them try and fail and try and fail, because that's life.
That's the path.
That's how you do it.
Right.
Yeah. So
Right.
I love that. So give me a little bit of what's the technique behind it? How do you it's a digital program, obviously.
And actually, I teach it in person most frequently.
Okay.
Which is really interesting. I can teach it digitally. I do, and throughout the pandemic, I taught it digitally. We did everything by Zoom.
Okay.
But honestly, we get the best conversations when we're in person together. Even though we're talking about technology,
Yeah.
that in-person connection is still invaluable. I think that was actually my biggest lesson from the pandemic. I miss digital. I miss technology. I'm like, I can do everything online.
Sure.
And then they locked me down for 2 years, and it actually took me close to a year. But even I eventually was like, okay, I need to get with people again. Like, I miss being tangible and in person.
I did not like Zoom or Teams. Great technology. Don't get me wrong, but I feel I'm curious to see what you think about this, because I've been in business development and marketing for for a while now. I started out and morphed into that path, but I need to be with somebody. I need to be able to read their body language, and you can't do that on Zoom. You can't get what somebody is feeling. You know what I mean? Because there's a little bit of a delay maybe, or you're only looking from here up. You can't see that they're fidgeting. You can't see, and I think reading body language is critically important to what we do.
I agree. Think about it in like degrees of separation. I actually kind of discovered this early in my career, because first I did things like waiting and bussing tables, and then I worked in a bank in person, and then I went into the online banking department, and everything was on the phone.
Okay.
And what I discovered very quickly is the further removed you are from people, the more their uglier sides tend to come out faster. When you're
True.
face to face with somebody, we tend to be on better behavior. So
that makes sense.
Zoom and camera technology is kind of halfway between in person
It's kind of
and
in limbo
on the phone. Right.
Right.
And it's about senses and stuff too. When we're
Yes.
in person, you're not necessarily thinking about it,
Mhm.
but there's smells, there's a
Right.
vibe, there's more tangible things that are
Exactly.
fairly imperceptible, and you lose a little bit of that when you go into the digital world. I still do think they're wonderful tools.
It's great technology. It's a great tool.
I like to sit at home in my jammies and work. It is my favorite way to be. I like being able to have the dogs in the room and make sure that I'm there with them as well. So for me, being able to do both is just optimal.
Well, and that's great. And I think also, it opened up a world of opportunity for moms, especially single
Absolutely.
moms that are have children, small children.
Absolutely.
That gave an opportunity to step up in whatever career they were in.
There are so many ways and diverse ways to make money now. It's incredible. Going to work and getting a job and getting a W-2 at the end of the year is not the only path.
Right.
You may have a full-time job and have a side hustle. That is very legit. Many people do these days.
Sure.
Your side hustle can turn into your full-time hustle.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's about putting in the work. It's about choosing what works for you. Some people like and need the security of having a job. They like having people that they work
the
with.
paycheck every 2 weeks.
Right. Lot of value to that.
Yep.
Then there's rebels like me that want no restrictions, want to do their own thing, want to just be out there and doing things a little bit differently.
Right.
So I've always been kind of a march to the beat of my own drummer kind of gal, and I've
that
taken
kind
off
of-
with that.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that's really the direction. That's what most young people aspire to these days, right?
Yes.
I'm of the generation where, you came out of school, you went and took a job, whether or not you went straight from high school into a steel mill or whatever, a manufacturing situation, or you went to college and went into a professional
It was
career.
one of the two.
And you were there, you worked for 30 years, 35 years, you got a pension, you retired, and you went on with your life. But that's not really what young people today are looking for.
No,
Right.
they want their independence. They
Right.
want their freedom. They want to be entrepreneurs.
Sure.
That's why I dug into this, because I saw the need for the teaching, because kids need these critical thinking skills. They're calling what they used to call soft skills.
Mhm.
They're now calling durable skills,
Okay.
and they're still largely undertaught in schools.
Absolutely.
So I take technology that kids are interested in, entrepreneurship that they're interested in, and use it as a tool to teach them emotional intelligence and
Right.
leadership skills and critical thinking.
Mhm.
And in my opinion, those are the skills of success. When I sat down and I founded Digital Bridges, that was what was on my mind. One, how can I help people with the skills that I have accrued?
Right.
And two, what are the skills of success? What makes people successful? And I came up with 3 skill areas. Technology, how we use the common technology that's in our lives every day. Do
Okay.
you let social media drive you crazy, or do you use it productively? Is
Right.
it just a big block in your pocket, or are you doing things like managing your health, managing your time? How are you using
Right.
the devices? Are you finding resources?
Sure.
So very
Are you getting
practical.
the most out of the tool?
Right, practical technology,
Mhm.
practical applications, and filling gaps on what you understand about it. Same thing with entrepreneurship. I'm a firm believer business skills are life skills. We've all got to deal with money. We've all got to know how to manage money. There's a
Right.
business skills are critical thinking skills. If you're in business, you're a problem solver. So those skills are applicable even if you never open your own business. You will walk
Absolutely.
away with applicable skills, right?
Absolutely. And I think business skills are so overlooked, especially when you get
Mhm.
into the specific professions, right? I've been in the engineering
Yes.
business for a long time. The
Yep.
two most important things to an engineer to be successful are being able to speak
Mhm.
and write.
Yep.
And they're not taught in engineering school.
It's communication.
Right. Because, if a young person comes out of high school and they're a math and science kid, right? They're looking at engineering. Okay.
Mhm.
The technical part of that is going to be a piece of cake for them. They're
Right.
not going to struggle with that. They're going to go through, they're going to whiz through it. They're going to get in their cubicle or office in that first job, and they're going to be asked to write a proposal or to give a presentation, and they're not going to be able to
Right.
do it. Right. So those human skills, those business skills that, and even on a project, you're basically on a specific project managing a P&L, right?
Mhm.
So
Exactly.
those are the things that, and what you're coaching, what you're teaching goes across any career path, any career cycle, any market
Absolutely.
sector, right?
Especially those social emotional learning skills,
Mhm.
emotional agility and whatnot. It does not matter what sector you're
I
in.
love that term,
Social emotional,
social,
so
emotional agility.
emotional. I like that one too
I
because
think that's critical.
absolutely. And I like especially the word agility. I used
Right.
to always say emotional intelligence, but emotional intelligence is only a piece of it. There are
Exactly.
actually 5 pieces to emotional intelligence. Emotional agility goes to the intelligence piece, but also being adaptable.
Right.
So I like to give a little analogy like life is like a tornado, right? The winds are blowing, change is coming, things are getting thrown at us that are different all the time. Sometimes that debris of life is like a little leaf to the face. You're 5 minutes late for something, you get stuck in traffic. Frustrating, but not the end of the world.
Right.
Sometimes life puts a refrigerator through your window and
It's
those
very true.
right?
Very true.
Those are the big things in life. You lose a job, you're going through a divorce,
Right.
cancer, somebody in your family is ill or injured. The big things that really disrupt us.
Mhm.
And agility, emotional agility is really how we get through those moments to the
Mhm.
best of our ability, is being able to cope with those moments.
Do you think it's possible for humans to be able to have the agility to deal with that refrigerator in the same manner or close to the same manner as they do the leaf? Can you get to that point? Do you think you could coach somebody to that point?
Yes, there are nuances. Obviously, if there's a
Sure.
refrigerator through your window, the protocol's a little bit and protocol's a bit of a stretch. It's not that official. But you have to change more intensely.
Sure.
You know what I mean? A leaf to the face is I better leave 5 more minutes early, small adjustment. Those major disruptors in
Mhm.
your life, you really got to go small. I say a lot when the world feels big,
Mhm.
go small.
There you go.
Focus on what are the immediate needs. What has changed? What are the immediate needs that are in front of me? Is there something that's driven by a deadline or an immediate urgency? Focus on those
Right.
first. You can't think about the big picture and all of the details and everything when you're in a crisis. You'll go nuts. You have to kind of go small, manage the moment, and follow the
Right.
breadcrumbs just step by step by
And that's
step.
it.
Yeah.
Right? What you just said is how the refrigerator kind of starts to shrink down and become small like the leaf.
Yeah. Or the
right?
proverbial elephant analogy. How do you
Yeah.
eat an elephant? One bite at a
One
time.
bite at a time. I mean,
Right.
that's absolutely right. And so I think the process, and I wouldn't call it a protocol, but what you are
Yeah.
doing, the process that you're following, and what you're teaching is exactly that. It's being able to take those, and I call them gut punches.
Yeah.
Right. So, and life's going to punch you in the gut. And everybody that's young person, Nick's age, you need to know that it's going to happen.
Yeah.
You're
It's the only thing I can promise you.
Exactly. Unless you sit in the house and don't get off the couch. And even then, it's probably going to kick the door down and find you.
It'll find you. It will. It finds a way.
You're going to get punched in the gut. So how you respond to that emotional agility, how you respond to that is critically important as to if you're going to have a good life or not.
Right.
Right? A happy life or sad, joy or sorrow.
Absolutely.
That's the line between those two.
It's both a choice and an action.
Mm-hmm.
And it is over time. And it's really hard in those dark moments. The darker the moment, the harder it is to maintain that, which is why it's important to build those skills over time. Because it's easy to do it if it's just a leaf to the face.
Right.
It's not easy when life puts a refrigerator through your window and you're trying to figure out how to rebuild your entire world.
Right.
So it's important to build those skills over time. And it's a constant journey. So it needs to always be part of our conversation.
Yeah.
We should always be talking about how we're coping with what's going on in our lives and in our worlds, because it's always changing. These aren't the kind of skills that I teach you one time and you go off into the world and you're forever perfect and life is fabulous and wonderful and birds are singing and chirping. That's not how it works.
Yes.
I can teach you these things and we can keep having those conversations over and over again, because the feelings are going to constantly change. The situations are going to constantly change. So normalizing the need to recenter and normalizing the need to continually figure it out, that's half the battle.
Right.
And if we can remove the stigmas along with that, the shame, the blame, the guilt, the judgment.
Exactly.
Those are the killers.
Yes.
If you can remove that, you're halfway through the game. If you can accept where you are, and trust me, I know this is easier said than done when you're in the throes of it. But if
it is, but and I'm sorry to interrupt, but
no, please.
Acceptance is, I think that's where you start there with what you're teaching and coaching, right? If you can get acceptance, if you and I are talking, and you can get me to accept who I am, to stop blaming Nick for everything, right? It's not my fault that I don't talk into the microphone all the time. It's Nick's because he doesn't remind me, right? So until I can accept where I am, okay, then I'm ready for you, right? So how do you get me to that point?
I meet you where you are.
Okay.
It doesn't matter if we're talking about technology. You know, if you're not techie and I need to teach you Microsoft Word and Google Docs, I can show you how to learn that stuff. If we're talking about emotional stuff, if you're down there in the dark, I'm getting down there with you.
There you go.
I'm going to listen.
It can be scary.
You know what? Bring it. I've been in the dark. I've been there. I've stared down those demons, and I will gladly be your person to be there with you.
That's awesome.
I meet you where you are. I hear you out. We breathe.
There are not a lot of people doing what you do that have the courage to do that. You know, I did therapy, right? I was in that dark place.
Big fan of therapy.
I was in that dark place, and it was everybody's fault but mine, right? Because there's no way I could have been responsible for the stupid stuff that went on in my life, right? So I was down there, I went to therapy, and they talked to me from up here in the light. They were yelling down to me, and but nobody had the guts to climb down in there with me and see what I was feeling and what it felt like.
Yeah.
If you're willing to do that, you're a rock star, girl.
I'm going to sit on the floor with you in the cold and in the dark, and I'm going to listen to what's going on, and I'm going to empathize with that as much as I can.
Right.
I'm never going to be you, so I'm never going to know exactly how it feels for
Right.
you, but I'm sure there are things from my experience that I can relate to what you're going through.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to feel that for a minute. I think the first step is really to stop and breathe and allow for the emotions.
Right.
Because you can't deal with them and get over them if you're shoving them away, if you're trying to play the tough card and just shove it down, keep going. You know, that can actually be counterproductive.
Mm-hmm.
I'll sit with you for a minute. I'm going to hear you. I'm going to empathize with you and understand where you're at.
Right.
And then when you're ready to take a deep breath, we're going to start taking small steps, one rung at a time.
Okay.
One rung at a time out of that dark hole. Sometimes you're going to slide down 3 rungs, and that's okay. On those days, call me. On those days, send me a message.
There you go.
And I tell my clients that all the time. I'm happy to be here for you. I'm happy to be that person that when you're just having a crappy day and it feels like everything is awful, even though you know it's not, call me, message me.
Yeah.
I will gladly, if I don't answer, I'll call you back. I'll message you back,
Sure,
give me a minute.
Sure.
But I actually enjoy being that person for people because it's so valuable. And I find that when you meet people that way, they're able to grow faster and they're able to heal faster. And I find that's where you really see results.
I agree. Did you have someone in your life that was that for you?
No. And that's actually the crux of it.
Yeah.
I really, until very recently, there are now some wonderful people in my world that have sided up with me and have become my family, but it's very recent, just the last couple of years.
Okay.
I spent much of my life having to fend for myself and deal with it myself. That was kind of the way my family was, pull yourself up by your bootstraps and deal with it and deal with your own stuff and don't talk about it. And well, I'm a rebel. I was the one that always wanted to talk about everything in the house that nobody wanted to talk about anything.
Yeah.
So I think that was actually the impact for me, was that I didn't get that when I needed it.
Sure.
And then when I found it for myself, it was like, well, yeah, this is when I needed it. And I like to be what I wish I would have had.
That's even better than having had somebody, right? Because you know what I'm feeling. You know what, when I sit down with you, I'm coming in there, I'm alone. I'm all by myself, right? You know what that feels like. So in the struggle, I think, is mostly around the loneliness piece, the feeling alone. There's a difference between being lonely and alone, but when you feel like it's just you against the world, you're all alone, especially when you're trying to deal with that refrigerator, right? I mean, that is not a good place to be. That's where you're teetering on, and having somebody like you that understands and you've been there, right? So you can't feel what I'm feeling, but you can tell me, listen, I'm here. You're not alone anymore.
Yeah.
Right. And that, in that space, because I've been in that space, right? To me, I could have avoided a lot of really silly things that had I had that person instead of that one shouting down at me. Right.
There have been times in my life where there have been those people, like, sometimes stay positive is as much of a gut punch as what life is throwing at you.
Yeah.
Sometimes life is just hard. And sometimes when people, positivity can even be toxic. Sometimes life is hard.
Yeah.
And we need to acknowledge that. I'm the person that'll sit there with you and say, yeah, that sucks. I'm sorry that you're going through that. That's hard.
Yeah.
I'm sure that hurts. We will empathize about it. I'm not going to tell. I don't
sugarcoat
sugarcoat.
it. Right. Exactly.
There's no filter here. If it's not coming out of my mouth, it's written all over my face.
Yeah, you have no poker face.
No,
None
none whatsoever. So I've just embraced that and made it my thing.
Yeah, and that's good because I think when I look at and there's a lot of people out there that I'm a very positive person, and I write a blog every day and I try to be positive, but I tell the truth.
Yeah.
I tell the truth because I don't think you're doing anybody any justice if they're going through something and say, it's going to be okay.
Yeah, right.
Be all
and
right.
it will. And I throw a dose of that in there too.
It's liable to hurt. It's liable to leave a mark on the way.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not going to be.
This is rough.
Yeah. What you have to do to get from here to there where you want to be. It's going to hurt.
We're going to get through it, and notice it's a we, what I mean? Because I side up right with you. You know what I mean? We're going to get through this. We'll figure it out. It may hurt. Yeah, I understand what you're going through is painful because I don't want to deny that. We can't deny that piece of ourselves.
No, I think you can't just go through life just seeing. You have to feel life.
Right.
You have to feel, and you have to feel all of it.
The feels.
You got to feel all of it. Even the stuff that's messy and that hurts every once in a while.
Life is messy.
Sure.
Life is meant to be messy.
Right.
It's kind of the whole thing is messy. From
Yeah.
birth to death, it's
Yeah.
messy, like
Absolutely.
literally.
Absolutely.
And I think that's kind of the beauty of it. It's not
Mhm.
perfect. It's not meant to be perfect. That's how we grow. That's how we
Yeah.
find challenges. That's how we overcome things. I know that I've definitely grown and changed over the
Mhm.
years because of what I went through. When you experience things in life, it impacts you. It changes who you are.
Yeah.
And you can either let that tear you down or you can let that build you up.
Right. You get to choose.
You really do. You get
You
to
get to
choose.
choose. You
And you
know,
may choose to be in the dark for a minute. Many
yeah.
people do choose to be in the dark for a minute. I'm here when you need somebody to be with you in that dark and pull
Mhm.
you out.
Yeah. You know, and that's very true, because that space is when I was able to, because I was by myself, that's when I was able to reflect and really came to understand, yeah, it's pretty much my fault.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's so
Well,
that's where accountability came.
that
Right.
fault word trips me up a little bit because I find blame to be kind of useless. I understand looking at it and understanding your faults. I'm very much for owning your faults and owning the things that you've done.
Well, that was flipping the switch from blaming you for my
Right,
problem
to
and accepting.
understanding
Yeah, that's what I meant by that.
how
Yes.
you contributed and how your
Right.
actions
Right.
contributed.
You're exactly
But
right.
it's that fault thing that I don't find value in making it. If it's productive, good. If we're
Mhm.
using it as a tool to make you better, great. But if we're just angry pointing,
Yeah.
that's not going to get us anywhere.
It's
Okay, yes, this happened.
doesn't
This
accomplish anything.
happened.
Right.
This is how you handled it. Maybe we could have handled it a little better, but we're not going to go, you're awful because of this and it's your fault. It's your fault.
Yeah.
Okay, this happened. You handled it this way. Let's take a step back, reevaluate.
Right.
That's where the benefit is.
Yes.
And then we can move on.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. No, that makes perfect sense, because, you know, you have to be able to understand that you can't control what happens to you. I mean, you know, you can live a certain way, you can do everything right, and you're going to trip over something.
Mhm.
Something unforeseen is going to happen.
Mhm.
What you get to choose is how you respond and who you become
Exactly.
because of it.
Exactly. And it really is a choice. It
Mhm.
may not feel that way when you're in the dark. You know what I mean? And I understand that when you're in the dark, all of this beautiful rhetoric that we're speaking it sounds hollow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It almost sounds like it's at a distance. You know,
Right.
like, yeah, that's great in theory, but I'm down here in the dark.
It's an echo.
I'm right. I'm in the trenches.
Yes.
So it's harder to hear it, but that's when you need to hear it the most.
Yep.
So we just continue on the path and just try to help lead people. I mean, even in the business world, which is where my career started,
Mhm.
I can prescribe you a marketing plan. We can talk about sales. We can talk
Right.
about operational efficiencies. Frankly, that stuff, data, technology, all those fun left brain things,
Yeah.
all those analytical type things, that's the easy part.
Right.
I can go in, I can diagnose all that. We can
Yeah.
figure out your systems. The people, first of all, is the harder part. And second of all, it's the more productive part. So
Right.
that's really where your energy should be. I never bought into this, you know, what have you done for me lately kind of philosophy. And I grew up in sales. So it was a lot of what
Yeah.
have you done for me lately?
Oh, yeah.
You know, coffee is for closers.
Yeah.
Still gives me nightmares. There's a reason I went the direction I went. I don't
Uh-huh.
believe that, even from a sales philosophy anymore. You know, and
Right.
even sales is relationship development. It's relationship
Everything is.
development.
Business is relationships.
Right.
That's what it is.
It's not about
all business is
closing.
personal.
I'm not trying
Right.
to sell you. I'm not trying to convince you. I'm not trying to bait you. Like, I don't like any of those kind of
No.
connotations that give salespeople a bad rep.
That's
You know what I
exactly
mean?
right.
What I want to do is build a relationship with you. If you
Yeah.
like what I have to offer, awesome. Come on board. We'll do. My tagline is, "I'll help you get your shit together." We'll work on getting your shit together. We'll have a good
Yeah.
time while we do it. I'll be there with you for whatever darkness you're facing.
Right.
And awesome. But I'm not going to convince you to come on board.
Mhm.
Convinced clients are crappy clients.
That's exactly right.
Awful. That is
That
my
is
number one
exactly right.
philosophy. If I have to
I
chase
agree.
you, every time I've chased a client that I wanted to work with this person or I wanted to work with this company and I want to do this. This is the client that I want. I'm prospecting them. Every time I go after those and they're resistant and I make the close, I make the sale, they're the worst client. They're whether you're talking about businesses I've worked for in the
Mhm.
past and their sales and buying stuff or consulting clients, they're the worst clients. I don't want to convince you. If you're not
Right.
convinced on your own, if you're not ready to do the work, I don't want to work with you. I don't want
Yeah.
your money if you're
That's
not ready
exactly
to do
right.
the work, if you're not going to be in this
Because
process.
you won't succeed.
Especially on the coaching side.
Right.
The
Right.
thing about coaching is your success is not about me. Your success is about you doing the work. I'm just a
Yep.
guide and a wall to
Right.
bounce thing. I'm a wall that talks back.
Right.
You know
That's
what I mean?
exactly
And
right.
bounces
Oh, I love it.
things
Yeah.
back to you.
Yeah.
The work is on you. I'm here to be your support. I'm here to be your guide. I'm here to
Mhm.
be that friend in the dark, and help you take productive steps forward. Coaching is about steps forward. Therapy is about digging.
Right.
Digging into the reasons, digging into the past.
Okay.
Coaching is about, okay, yes, this happened. This is where we're at. This is what's happening now. How are we going to get to the next stages? How are we going to get to the next steps, and helping people to get there? That's why I added coaching to the consulting,
Mhm.
because consulting just wasn't enough. Like I said, sales plans, easy peasy, no sweat. Been doing this my whole career. But when I work with people, even if it's in a group, if we're in
Mhm.
if I'm working with like a team in an office, I still got to work with the people. I got to know what's
Right.
going on with them individually. I got to know about the dynamics of the team.
Mhm.
I've got to know about the challenges as far as communication and who gets along and who doesn't,
Right.
because that's going to be the solid foundation that your growth actually comes from. So I believe that as an employer, your job is to make your employees better. It's not your job to manage your employees' work. It's your job to make your employees better. How are you making their lives better? If they're not performing the way you want them to perform, well, what's going on with them?
Mhm.
What do they not have that they need? Is it in the business place? Is it at home? Whatever it is, it doesn't matter to me.
Right.
I never believed in that leave your life at the door stuff. I think that's BS. That's just not possible. We're
It's
human.
impossible. You're
It is.
exactly right. It is impossible. And one thing that, listen, there's always things that you have to work on. And I just did it. It's playing around in my head. You're exactly right. I say that way too much.
Well, I'll take it.
But no. A friend of mine pointed that out to me. He watches the show and he was critiquing, and he said, I forget who I was talking to, but he said, you said you're exactly right 8 times.
I think mine's
And I said, well, but I agree with the person. But he said, you can nod your head. You don't have to say that every single time.
Mhm.
So the point I'm trying to make is that there are things that no matter how long you've been in business, no matter how much you think you know,
Mhm.
there are things that you really don't realize you're doing.
Mhm. Oh, absolutely.
You know-
Absolutely. And you develop those little ticks over time too.
Right. And it really, to me, a lot of it comes from trying to make that separation, right?
Yeah.
Work-life balance. What is that?
It's a myth, is what it is.
You're exactly. So I agree.
I got you.
You did. No, I agree. And the point being that, you're always learning. There's always room for improvement. There's
Mhm.
always room to be more than who you are and do more than what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I believe if you're not growing, if you're not learning, you're dying. But I'm also a complete school nerd. I love school. You know what I mean? I love learning. I love it. There's so much in this world.
Right.
There's so much to do in this world. There's so much to see in this world. There's so much beauty in this world. I just want to consume as much of that as I can in my short time on this planet.
I love that because you're right. None of us will live long enough to see or know everything.
And we have so many worlds in this one planet.
Right.
You know, think about the fact that somewhere on the other side of the planet in, like, say, India, for example, they're on a completely different time schedule. Those people are sleeping in their beds right now. They are living lives in a city that looks completely different,
Yeah.
speaking a language that sounds completely different, living in a culture that is completely different than ours here in Canonsburg, Pennsylvania. And then there's African cultures, there's European. I'm just so fascinated with how people live and how
Mhm.
people think and how people connect with each other,
Right.
that there's no satisfaction for the thirst to explore that and to see that. And I think
to
that's
learn.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we need, right? Because
Yeah.
that diversity and all those differences that you just talked about are the exact thing that makes us the same.
Yeah,
Those-
exactly.
And learning more about it. If I walk into a room the first thing I do is look for somebody that's nothing like me.
Mhm.
Doesn't look like me, doesn't talk like me, doesn't think like me, doesn't walk like me, right?
Those are always my friends.
I want to know,
Yes.
which is how I came to stumble upon Peel and Kelly and her organization, and you're a big part of that. And I want to talk about that for a little bit. I don't know how you people do it.
Lots of coffee.
Yeah. Listen, it is such a cool organization. And, Nick's been involved with it. I got my GPI colleagues and my team in it because I think that, again, getting back to what you said, which was so profound about the world is a big and beautiful place, right? It's not scary if you go and learn about what's different. Then it becomes part of the beautiful part.
Yes.
Okay. So my team is very good at being with other engineers. Okay. But when you get them into a room of people, all of a sudden they get small.
Yeah, they don't want to talk.
Right.
And you need somebody like me to start pulling it out of them.
That's exactly right. So, see, I'm not an engineer by education, right? It's by vocation. I've been in the engineering business for 40 years, but I am not a professional engineer. So I don't fit that mold, even though that's what I've done my whole life. But at the end of the day, when I go into that room, I want them to be able to navigate any room they walk in, right? Pick a door number 1, door number 2, door number 3. You don't know who's behind that door. You don't know what's back there, but have the courage to pick one and open that door and walk through, right? Yeah. And that's what Peel is giving them. Yes. Particularly Nick's mom, Diane, who is one of the most naturally intelligent, brightest human beings I know. Now, I've worked with the absolute best minds in the engineering industry on a global scale. PhDs, people who have designed the latest new cutting edge technology. And Diane's as smart as any of them. Okay. And it's the difference between these kind of rock star people it's just opportunity. It's being in a place, in a company where you had a chance to do that. But what she really needed and wanted was what you guys have given her.
Network, people.
Yes.
Friends.
And again, being able to relate to literally anybody that walks past.
Yeah. Well, right? And for Peel especially, Peel's a wonderful networking group, Pittsburgh's elevated and emerging leaders. Our founding philosophy is that open door policy. Right. We are here to help. We always have
you welcome everybody. It doesn't matter who it is.
Literally everybody.
Doesn't matter.
And you will be welcomed with open arms, no matter how many of us already know each other there, which we do. There's a big group of us that we know and love one another and have developed those relationships. But we are always welcoming new people to the table. Our table is never full, ever. We will always welcome new people.
Build a bigger table.
Absolutely. Add more, bring it in. There's no shortage of lumber. There is no shortage of tables. And I'll sit on the floor if I need to. Cool. Let's grab a chair or let's grab a spot on the floor. I don't care, on the carpet. Yeah. I'm fine. You know what I mean? The point is there's always room. And there's always room to welcome people, no matter where they are. It goes, Peel really aligns very much with my meet people where they are and help them move up philosophy.
Right.
It's completely aligned to that. Yes. And that's why I'm such a big part of that organization. That's why it was important to me to help Kelly found that organization, just be a part of it. I say to her all the time, I'm like, just put me in, coach. I'm happy to help however you need it. I'm happy to be here for you whenever you need it. Just let me know what you need and where you need me to be, and I'm all in.
You are in. I don't know if I've ever seen a photo from a Peel event that you haven't been in.
I think I've missed one or two. I get migraines and, I mentioned, every now and then they tend to call me the tank. Every now and then the tank does go down.
and you are a dog mom and you have a new baby. So there's a lot of responsibility.
Well, it's so funny because they teased me relentlessly about that before I got the puppy. And I'm like, I swear the puppy is not going to stop me from going out. They're like, if you get a puppy, we're never going to see you again.
You have to start taking the puppy with you.
That's what now everybody wants the special appearance.
Okay, yeah. So where's Cooper, right? Where is he at? Where's he at?
It's so fun. I'm like, I will be there. I will show up.
But it's so needed, and again, I can see your fingerprints on that. And Kelly Frost is amazing. Kelly was one of the first guests on the podcast, and she's fantastic. But I can see you in it. Kelly and Jess and everybody engaged. You guys are all in sync.
Yeah.
You're all,
We're like the same person.
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
you should,
absolutely.
yeah, absolutely. We literally have to like compare outfits and compare thoughts and stuff before we go anywhere, because we are likely to duplicate things.
Right.
And it's just hysterical because we really do. We vibe. When you find your tribe, when you find people that are like-minded, especially in a positive way. If you're hanging out with like-minded people that are negative, find new friends. When you find people that are like-minded in a positive way and that are helping empower you to take the next steps in your life, hold on to those people.
Right.
Those people are now family to me. Kelly and I, Jess and I, we're not blood related, but
family has nothing to do with blood.
Exactly.
Nothing.
I consider them sisters. I mean, they are my family, and it's beautiful. And those are the people that I mentioned that just came into my life within the last couple of years that have made such a difference.
I thought so.
And when you find those people that do side up with you and help you get over that darkness that you've experienced, it's a whole different world. And it's really, it's gratifying, and it makes me want to do what I do even more, because it's healing, and I want to help others heal. I want to help make those scars a little less deep. If we can close that wound a little faster, maybe make it a little less deep just by the nature of having somebody there to support you. I'm so all in on that. I'm so all in. It's just, you gotta.
You would not have found them, nor they you, had you not put yourself out there to be seen.
That is true.
That's a big deal.
And we could talk about visibility all day. That could be a whole other podcast. Visibility is my jam. Because it comes up in two ways. One, how are we, what you just said is about how we're visible in our day-to-day life. What do you choose to do? Do you choose to get up and go to the networking event? Because even if you're doing things digitally, that human connection is still important. You've still got to get out there. You've still got to get out with people. Do you make that choice, or do you choose to stay home? You know what I mean? How do you choose to be visible? How do you show up for your partner? How do you show up for your kids? How do you show up for your pets at home? How are you showing up for yourself and for the other people that you're interacting with? That's the first piece of visibility. Once we work on that, get you comfortable there, then we can work on your public visibility. How are you putting yourself out there on social media? How are you presenting yourself in a professional capacity? What are you showing the world? But we've got to work on that internal visibility piece first, because if you're not comfortable with your visibility day to day, you're never going to be comfortable on camera, or being on social media is always going to feel
100%,
like a trap.
100%. And when you were at the men's luncheon where I spoke, and I'll tell you a story about that.
I crashed the men's luncheon.
You did, and I was so happy. Listen,
leave it to me.
Listen, that was wonderful. I was so happy to see you there, but I was having a horrible day.
Oh, wouldn't have known that.
It was a stressful week in my day job with GPI, and not for any reason other than clients, this, that, the other.
Sure, life.
The stress of business development.
Lots of leaves.
Yeah. So I kind of made my daughter and son-in-law go for a couple of reasons. Aaliyah, who you met, is my stepdaughter.
Yeah.
It's Terry Lynn's daughter, and Aaliyah's been my person from we just connected when she was. I met Aaliyah when she was probably in middle school. She was a friend of my son's. They were in the same friend group.
Such a pivotal time.
And we just kind of connected. And I was coaching high school basketball. I was an assistant coach at Balvernon High School. And she would come in to the gym because we practiced right after school. And she'd sit over in a corner and do her homework. And quiet, never disrupted anything. So we didn't have a problem with it. But then she would talk to me, and we would talk, and we connected. She's actually introduced me to her mother. But at the end of the day,
you owe a lot to this kid.
I knew. Yeah. Listen, you have no idea. And she collects.
Not a kid anymore.
She collects. Trust me. Yeah, she's gonna be. So
we were talking about.
But I needed her to be there for that, because I knew I wasn't going to be at my best, and I still needed to show up. Because, like you just said, if I can't show up when I'm not at my worst, but when I'm not really on my game, I don't deserve to show up when I'm at my best. Okay. And then I wanted her to bring her husband because I wanted him to see that. I wanted him to see that example.
It is about seeing examples.
Right. So I was so appreciative of the response. I was humbled in that moment because I was way off the mark, right? And I don't know if anybody picked up on it. She did, right? Because she knows me and she's heard me speak before. And she's like, she's like her mother. That wasn't your best, but you got through it. And that was the point.
But
right?
Nobody else in the room knew that.
See, that's what I was trying to do. I wanted to show up, and this is the lesson for myself and for a lot of people, right? Again, it's as simple as if you don't have the humility, the gratitude, and the vulnerability to stand up and show up when you're not on your game, don't bother me. Don't come to me whenever you're at your best, right? Because you don't deserve my attention then. Right? I need to get you need to get my attention when you're at your worst. Okay. When you show up in that space and you give me everything you have, when you're not feeling it, when you are, I'm going to be the first person there and I'm going to raise my hand with you. I'm with you.
Yeah. Well, and I can't help you if I don't know what's wrong either. Is a big
you're
part
exactly
of that.
Right.
But just showing up, nobody is ever going to be at their best.
I did it again. You're killing me here. I'm agreeing with you too much.
No such thing.
Good,
and I now have it on camera and on record how right I am.
You are.
I'm going to take that home with
I've
me
agreed
tonight.
with you like 10 times.
I'm going to take that home and make sure I have that ready to play.
We're very
as
much in
needed.
sync with philosophy
Absolutely.
and things like
Yes,
that. And I
we're
think
very
that's
kindred spirits.
why you and
Absolutely.
I clicked immediately.
Of course.
You know, I mean, it was like as soon as you walked in the room, the first time I saw you, oh my God, I love her. Because you were just you're so full of life and so
Thank you.
you.
I appreciate that.
Right? It doesn't matter. You show up as you every day, everywhere you go.
I have no choice. I don't know how to be anybody else. Nobody else is qualified to meet me, and I don't know how to be anybody else. So I just, I actually said this last Saturday in front of a whole room full of people, and I'm going to say it here again on camera. One of my favorite sayings is, let your freak flag fly.
I love that.
We are unique individuals. The world needs that uniqueness. We need to have the permission to be ourselves and just be fully who we are. And I want to give people permission to do that. And I don't know any other way to be. Like I said, no filter.
Sure. And I think that's perfect because, people in our space and doing what we do, we preach authenticity and being genuine and being original and
But
not
so many
following
people
the crowd.
aren't.
Well, and that's very true. And I wasn't for a long time. And that's why I crashed and burned everything to the ground, because I refused to be me. Because I felt I had to be somebody else to fit in, to be this, to be that, to hang out with the cool kids and do all those things. And when I finally, it overwhelmed me. And it just, I didn't just trash my life and throw it in a dumpster. I
lit a match, threw some gas on, added some Tinder.
Set it on fire, and just.
Been there.
Yeah. So it's like, now what do? There's nothing left. There's literally nothing left.
You rebuild.
And when you find yourself in that space and when you get to the point, so I was in the dark, like you said, it was really basically just one conversation that flipped the switch for me. I said, I got to be this guy. All right. So in order for me to be this guy in the way I want him to be, in the way I want to be, I have to do this, and this. And number 3, it's going to leave a mark. It's going to hurt. But I got to do it, right?
Yeah.
I can't skip over that step. I've got to go through that.
And look at that. You can do hard things.
How about that?
We can do hard things.
How about that? It's amazing because I never thought I could. I used to run and hide from stuff. I didn't want to do hard stuff. Where's the easy button?
Well, yeah, we want the easy button.
Right. But now, once
there
you
is
do
no
it,
easy button.
we need to do it once.
There's no right button either.
Yeah.
It's all choices.
You're not going to get me to say it again.
Oh, challenge accepted.
I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to say it again. But I agree. I think, and it really only takes that one hard thing.
It can, and often life does it more than once.
Well, the next time it gets a little bit easier.
Yeah, exactly.
Then a little bit easier.
And,
then a little bit easier.
Yeah.
So that, and you build from that leaf to the refrigerator.
Exactly.
And then that allows you, once that refrigerator comes, to start to go back to the leaf.
Yeah, exactly. And life toughens you up as you go through it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Once you go through certain things, it's like, oh, okay, nothing's going to throw me after that
You get punched enough
one.
times, you,
Which
you
is
you learn
also
how to
kind of
take the
tempting
punch.
fate, but
Yeah.
yeah, you do. And that's part of the benefits, I think, of
Mhm.
aging and being around over time. I actually think that's where some generational differences come in,
Mhm.
because once you've been kicked in the teeth by life a handful of times, you get that humility, you get that self-awareness, you get that perspective. When
Yeah.
you're young, everything's new, everything's, you know, it seems very clear when you're young, and then you go out and life kicks you in the teeth and things get muddy and you gain that perspective. So we've got to kind of find a way to, again, I'm Digital Bridges, we bridge that gap
Mhm.
between, young people that have great ideas and innovations and they know what they want to see for the future, and the benefits that can be found from the older generation. Right now they don't talk too well. My goal is always to to bring people together. In fact, one of the programs I'm really jonesing to put together, I want to do an entrepreneurship or a social media program that's intergenerational. So moms and
Love it.
daughters or
Love it.
granddaughters, dads, whatever, older generation, younger generation.
You get a group of grandpas together,
Well, and then
there's
I'm
going to
going to
be
mix it up.
fun and frivolity
Well,
is
then I'm
going
going to
to
mix it
ensue.
up. You're not going to work with your kid. You're not going to
Yeah.
work with your person. I'm putting them in a team over here with
Right.
these other
I
people,
love that.
and you're getting this kid. And we're going to sit down and we're going to learn from each other. So I'm going to have the kids teaching you guys tech and talking about social media and technology, and you're going to learn from them and listen to what they think. And then vice versa. You can tell them about your experiences, what it was like when you were little, and we bridge that gap and we communicate. It's just so much fun.
I want to be in the first cohort that you take.
I would love that.
And I have to warn you, though, I'll have to connect you with my grandkids' TikTok because I'm kind of a pretty big deal on TikTok.
Well, I can't wait to see that. Now I
Yeah,
feel like
that's-
I'm missing
I'll have-
something.
I'll
I'm
have
going to
to
have
show
to
you.
go look.
I'll have to show you. We were in New Orleans for a conference, and Liv, my Connie, came with us because she always wanted to go to New Orleans and she didn't get her Sweet
course.
16 trip, so she went with us, and I ended up in the hotel room at like midnight doing TikToks with her.
Nice.
Papa, come on, let's do this.
Yes.
So
I
yeah.
love that you're willing to do that with them. That's all it takes is a willingness to learn, a willingness to connect. That's why you have a good
to.
relationship with her,
You
because you're
have
willing to meet her on her level.
Sure. And you have to do that. And you have to do it with everybody. And I think, learning that from the business world, and again, it goes back to what we said about there is no business life, personal life.
No, it's just life.
It's just life. So learning what I learned and how to deal with people, I wish I would have learned it sooner because I didn't have the kind of relationship with my kids that I have with my grandkids because, I was 26. By the time I was 26, I had 3 kids, and
That's a lot.
I'm like, I wasn't ready for any of them.
I don't think anybody ever is. And plus I'm team no kids.
Well, I couldn't even tie my shoes when the first one came, but that's a story for another day. Talk about another. That's 10 podcasts. I mean, we could delve into that. But as I learned and as I see my kids, the problem is my kids were with me when I hit rock bottom. When I crashed and burned, they were in that.
Yeah, and that's hard.
So it became a different dynamic. And 20 years out from that, my relationship with my kids is still, I don't even know if you could call it one, right? But by the time Terry Lynn came into my life and her 2 kids, then all of a sudden, and then the grandkids started coming, well, I had learned from those
Right.
mistakes. I had become, my biological children and grandchildren don't know this guy.
Yeah,
Okay, they know that guy.
right.
Right. And it's hard to get away from that guy. It's hard
I
to
get
put
it,
that
yep.
down. Right.
Yeah.
So, but these guys, my stepkids and grandkids, they only know me. They only know this.
Right.
So it's a whole
Totally.
different
Yep.
dynamic, So that if I have a regret in life, which I don't really call it a regret, but it would have been that I would have become me sooner.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. The flip side of that, though, is it takes those traumas to make you who
Right.
you are.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's kind of the dichotomy of life. I wish I had known this when I was younger, but it took this to get me there.
Yeah.
It's kind of the dichotomy between,
What Dylan say? I was so much older then. I'm younger than that now. Right?
youth is wasted on the young.
Yeah, very true. That is very true.
You know what, though? I would not go back to high school. I would gladly go back to college, especially if I could go back to college knowing what I know now.
Ooh.
But that's because I'm a school nerd. So like, if I could go back to that,
Yeah, that would be.
I still get giddy on a college campus.
Oh, I love it. I'm I was raised by teachers, so I'm
Oh,
a
that's right. Yeah.
huge education
Yeah,
person. I'm
yeah.
a big my 3 kids are college graduates. I'm very proud of them for that. But I also really love the school of life
Yes.
because 99% of what I know right now
Oh, yeah.
came out there.
Oh, yeah.
1% came from a book, came
Right.
from a classroom.
Right.
But the other 99% came from out
Oh,
there.
absolutely. And those are
you
the
know?
more important lessons, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Skills that you learn in a classroom are applicable to like your job, your work.
Mm-hmm.
Life skills, the durable skills,
Mhm.
what you learn by getting kicked in the teeth by the world. Those are real, I think, where the value comes from. And
I
I
agree.
think that's what helps us to connect.
Mhm.
And that's also what makes connection so imperative to helping people grow and helping them out of that darkness so that we can then get back to making sales and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
you've got to communicate, you've got to connect. I tell people all the time, if somebody is bothering you or you don't have a good relationship with them or you dislike them for some reason, go closer. Get to know them better as a
Mhm.
person. Find out what makes them tick, what's their family like, what's their history like. All of a sudden, their political stances are going to mean less because you can see the human.
Right.
That issue with they were late is going to matter a little bit less because you're going to see the challenges that they're facing.
Well, that person that doesn't look like you, that you
Yeah.
don't understand. And I
Go
love when you said
closer.
that. Go closer. Get to know them. Find out about them.
Yeah.
That is such great advice. And that is something that every single person needs to embrace. Think of what, not even the world, but think about just our little piece of it, how much better it would be, how different it would be
Yes.
if we all just went closer.
Absolutely. You should hear it when I say this in front of a room full of teenagers. Ooh, do I get reactions?
I'm sure. I'm sure.
It's good stuff, though, man. Let's have those challenging conversations.
Yeah, we can't hide from it.
No.
The difficult conversations are how things change.
I kind of love difficult conversations.
That's where change happens.
It is. It absolutely is.
And it's almost always change for the better because there comes an understanding, a knowledge
Yes.
and an understanding of each other so that you can then, oh, wait a minute, I get it. I get it. I get where you're coming from. I see it.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily have to agree with you, but now I can understand where you're coming from, this different place than me. And
Yes.
we're really not as far apart as I originally thought.
The most dramatic example of that I know of is a story, and unfortunately, I can't remember the gentleman's name right off the top of my head. I think it's Darren or Daryl. I cannot quite remember. This gentleman was working on a book. And this is a black man. Okay, he's working on a book and he's doing research on the KKK
Okay.
in the Deep South.
Okay.
Okay, so for this book research, he decides to talk to KKK members. Not only did he talk to them, he formed relationships with them over decades
Mm-hmm.
that resulted just by him being present, allowing them to get to know him, and without judgment, learning about them. He didn't go in there yelling and you can't do this, you shouldn't. He
Right.
went in and just wanted to learn, and he allowed them to learn about him. This man has multiple robes that KKK members have given to him when they left the KKK
That's fascinating.
because of learning about him,
Mm-hmm.
learning about who he is as a person,
Sure.
and that profoundly changed the way they see the world. I believe it was an entire group of KKK members that folded eventually, that just went away through that relationship development.
Mhm.
And like I said, this guy did not go in there, with a social mission. His goal wasn't to take down the KKK. It wasn't to change minds. He was doing research for a book.
Right.
And it turned out that it changed so many minds and
Mhm.
so many hearts and healed so many misconceptions
That's all it
and
takes.
divisions
Right.
just by being vulnerable and being present and having the courage to be seen.
Putting ego aside
Absolutely.
and allowing yourself to be humbled and be who you are in a space and accept the person across from you for who they are.
Right.
Right.
Right. And simply communicate.
Right. You learn so much. And, I was blessed. I grew up in the 60s and 70s. And I was blessed by the parents I had because they were very progressive for that time. They were, my father saw humans. Okay?
Yes,
And I had
exactly.
so many people tell me that, I had an African American friend of ours. He was older than me, and when my father passed away, the first 10 people that reached out to me, okay, he coached basketball and different things, but the first 10 people that reached out to me were black kids that he had taught, and the one thing that was said to me over and over was that he didn't treat me like a black kid. He treated me like a kid.
He connected with them as
Right.
people.
And that's what he never
That's
preached to me.
beautiful.
He never said this, or this. He was always on the forefront of civil rights and doing those types of things because he believed in people.
Exactly.
Okay.
And we are all just people.
That's exactly right. That's
Keep going.
exactly
Nothing to
right.
do with anything.
You
It's all about our experiences, how
So you
we're
did it to
raised,
me
how we
again.
see the world. I told you I'd get you.
killing me. But no, that's
Challenge achieved.
and you won. Yeah, you winner. We have a winner. We have a winner, Nick. I became something else in someone else, right? When
Yeah.
that happened to me, because I was like, oh man, I can't do that because I got this, and this. I got to come over here and change lanes over here.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, when my lane is here, and next thing you know, I'm 8 lanes over in the oncoming traffic coming the other direction, right? And then what happens? You crash.
I don't know how I did it or why I did it or the making. I really don't understand some of it, but I took all that, you're too much, be quiet, don't talk about it, all that for my whole life. And somehow I just seemed to have blinders and I was just like, okay, I'm just going to keep drumming.
There you go.
You don't like the way I'm drumming? That's okay. You can go over
Stay
there.
over there.
You can go over there. You really don't like, okay, I'll go this way a little bit. I'm just going to keep right on drumming.
Keep doing it. That is awesome. And that is such, if you could put that in a bottle and sell it, you'd be
Good Lord,
a
I wish.
bazillionaire, because there's so
I'm
many,
trying, man.
so many people that struggle with that, especially young people today, because there's influences, and it's, everybody wants to be an influencer now,
Yeah.
right? That's the thing.
Well, but being an influencer is about being who you are.
Right.
Because people are attracted to your personality. That's what we look for now. When we're talking about an influencer, you're offering your personality. You're offering your flavor, your flair. It's full flavor leadership because I am full flavor and I teach you leadership and I teach you how to run your business and how to be better in the world. And it's important.
That's the message. That's the message.
It really
because
is. Let
the
your
young
freak
people,
flag
people that
fly.
want to do right. The people that want to all of a sudden, I want to be an influencer, so they look and they watch YouTube or Instagram, whatever it is, and they try to emulate something. Next thing you know, they're nothing but a clone of somebody else.
But they're also being told, no, you can't. They're being told, no, you're not. It's like
You're not good
previous
enough. You can't
generations
do that.
acting in sports is now
Right.
social media. You're not going
Right.
to be an actress. You're not going to be a sports player. Well, you can be if you put the work in. I think it's even easier to be a social media influencer or a digital entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
You can set up shops. You can be a creative entrepreneur. You can make paintings and sell them on Etsy. I love unconventional entrepreneurs. There are so many skill sets.
There are people making money doing the most ridiculous things.
What lights you up is the first question I have with somebody that says to me, I want to start a business, but I don't know what. The first words out of my mouth are, what lights you up? And then we're going to figure out how to make money from that.
That's awesome.
That's kind of how
It's a perfect
my philosophy.
approach. It's a perfect approach, right?
That's how I started my business.
if you don't, well, first of all, if you don't love what you're doing, you're not going to succeed. You're
Right.
going to fail eventually. You can
Or you'll
kick
be
the can
miserable.
down the road, yeah, but sooner or later you're gonna trip over that can.
Yeah.
You're just going to. It's just that's the way it works. You've got to love what you're doing, especially if you're going to be in sales.
I'll choose.
If you're going to be
yeah.
in that,
Absolutely. Sales is a tough gig.
yeah, it is.
It's a lot of people,
If you can't get me to connect with you, why in
Yeah.
the hell would I buy something from you?
Right, exactly. Because sales is about relationships. It's not about convincing, like I said earlier.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm just a firm believer in relationships and being there for people. And that's when you grow. That's when sales go up,
Yeah.
That's when the magic happens. We live wholeheartedly. We fix whatever's not going on or we work towards it. It's never an easy situation. But it's just be there for people, be cool, gotta get rid of the judgment. If you're judging somebody or you're like, oh, why did they do that? Go closer.
Right.
You're
Right.
judging.
Get in there.
You're judging.
Get in there.
take that judgment out. You don't know what they're dealing with. Somebody's tailgating you and they're getting on your nerves. I like to play, especially in traffic and stuff, I like to play, I wonder what's going on for them. Are they late? They're going slow. Do they have a baby in the back of the car? Do they have an injury that they're trying not to jostle? Like, I try to think of creative, reasonable reasons somebody may be doing something that's annoying
an interesting
me,
way to look at it.
because I can't
Instead of
go
getting
closer.
angry, right? Instead of getting frustrated or angry.
What's the point? I can't change it. If I can't get around them, I can't get around them. You know, you got to accept to overcome.
Right.
You know, you've got to be able to deal with what it is before you can solve it.
Acceptance is the first step to literally everything. I mean, literally everything you want to do is accept the current circumstance.
Absolutely.
Right? If you're in denial, you'll never be able to see the path forward.
That doesn't mean you're okay with it and you're going to stay there.
Right.
It just means acknowledging, yeah, this is where I'm at, good, bad, or indifferent. You know, you're catching me on an upswing right now, but a couple years ago, it looked completely different. A couple of years ago, I felt a Facebook picture from 5 years ago came up the other day, and I looked at this picture and I'm like, oh my God, I am a different human being. Like, I mean, I'm not. That girl is still there. You know what I mean?
Right.
That woman is still there.
Right.
But this Connie has grown so much, even in just 5 years. I was just starting my business. I was going through the worst, darkest moments of my life. And here I am 5 years later. Businesses are thriving. They're growing rapidly. I'm looking at scaling and how to make that happen. Life is good. You know, I'm on an upswing.
That's awesome.
But I'm very familiar with the downswing too.
Sure.
And on the upswing, looking back on those downswings, I'm so grateful for where I'm at.
And see, it's a blessing that woman popped up.
Yeah.
Right. So
absolutely.
So you could reflect for a minute and have that.
Absolutely.
Have that moment like, wow.
I'll tell you what, that girl's got tenacity, man.
Done it. Yeah.
That girl's got tenacity.
Yeah.
She got out of that hole.
Look at me. Look what I did.
And I don't like, it's totally not narcissistic. You know what I mean? It's just like,
I think you have to congratulate yourself every once in a while.
You've got to acknowledge the things that you've done, and you've got to acknowledge where you've come from and where you're going. Like you said, you were this totally other person to your kids. Yeah. They know you as a completely different human being, but you did the work.
Right.
You did the work.
I didn't forget him. I didn't forget. Listen, I own that guy.
Exactly.
I'm just not him anymore.
We discussed that guy and how that impacted your children. So that girl's still there. That guy is still there.
Absolutely.
But look at who you've become and who your grandkids now have the privilege to know.
Right.
That's all you can do in life is take that darkness and grow through it. And it's a beautiful process. It's a challenging process. It's hard. It's real hard, but it's so worth it.
Absolutely.
You know, I'll take happy over bored over anything else, over easy any day of the week. I chose happy over easy.
You know, in almost 63 years, nobody to date has told me that this was going to be easy.
Yeah. Well, yeah. No.
Nobody's ever told me that.
If somebody's telling you it's going to be easy, or you think you're going to have a straight path to the top, I'm just going to sit here and chuckle. Yeah. Like it really kind of makes me laugh. Somebody once said to me, I was catching up with somebody, and they're like, "Well, it seems like you've got everything under control," and I like straight up belly laughed. Like I was really grateful that I wasn't drinking something in that moment, because the concept of control is such a myth. Like there is no such thing as control.
You can't control anything.
There is no such thing. I mean,
you can control your response, your attitude, your response to something happens.
But the beautiful little upswing I'm on now, something could happen 2 minutes from now, 2 seconds from now, that I don't see coming, that could take that all, not take it away, but change it.
Change it, yeah.
Change that whole trajectory, and you never see it coming.
Right.
You know, all you can do is be you and keep putting your one foot in front of the other. Follow the breadcrumbs of life, the little clues that life gives you, and just be and try. Never give up. Never, ever give up.
But don't lose sight of the footprints behind you.
Absolutely.
Right?
That's part of you too.
Sure.
I mean, I went through a divorce in my early 30s, and I can remember being so stressed out because I was a full-time master's degree student. I wasn't working at the time. And then my marriage immediately broke up and I wasn't working. And I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And I remember looking at that. Now I look back at that 33-year-old girl who is crying and thinks that the worst thing that's ever going to happen to her is this divorce and this short-lived marriage, and thinking that it's such a failure and this is like the most horrible thing. And got through that, rebuilt myself. Then I got kicked in the teeth again, and it was even worse. Now I look back at that girl, and I'm like, oh, honey, you're cute. Aren't you sweet?
Aren't
you
you
think this is
sweet?
the worst thing you're going to go through?
Just
Buckle
wait.
up.
Just wait.
People put up posts that say, like, what would you tell your future self or your past self about your life now? My advice is buckle up.
Hold on, because it gets worse.
It's gonna be bumpy, but you're gonna be okay.
You're gonna be okay.
It's a roller coaster.
Don't
But
jump
you're gonna
out.
be all right.
Don't jump off. Go to the end of the ride. You're
Buckle
gonna be all right.
up, secure.
Yeah. Well, listen, sweetheart, I have to tell you, this has been so much fun.
Always.
And thank you so much for coming and joining us and telling us about your business and your story and everything. And you're so positive and uplifting.
Aw.
I am blessed to be your friend. And thank you so much. I love you dearly.
I love you dearly, and thank you so much for having me. And if it wasn't for the camera, I would jump across this table and hug you. So we'll do that as soon as we're done.
We'll do that in a second. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Turn those off because I'm gonna get a hug, buddy. You know how much I like hugs, man.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.